What up, perps? Kate Copey is back in effect. Purple State Party. You know what we're doing here? We're repping America, the center, and common sense. Common sense comes from always remembering something. Every issue is like a triangle. There are two sides and a bottom line. And I urge everybody, the one lesson I want to get across is to gain perspective on topics and issues that are out there. Don't live in an echo chamber. We're going to look at a few of these, how you could take the same story and look at it two different ways. And if you're simply looking at one side, well, you're going to feel really differently. If you look at both sides, you might gain some clarity. And that's my bottom line. Let's get to it. You know, right now, most of the media out there wants to point out how Trump's war against Iran is failing. It's badly planned, blah, 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 blah. A good example was, I was reading an article. It was on, I think, MSNBC or MS Now, whatever the hell it is. And they were talking about how the air war can't succeed in regime change. Well, that's obviously true, but that's not really the point. And the oddest thing happened a couple days ago when I was reading through the news, Yahoo, Google, the different sources that I look at. And an article came up from a place called Al Jazeera. It's a Qatari-owned newspaper. It's, mostly for the Islamic world. They cover world news, whatever. But their op-ed that was written by an assistant professor of the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies, his name's Mohanad Salam. He praised the U.S.-Israeli operations against Iran. And he said that the Democrats of America and media critics are wrong. Like the article starts, Operation Epic Fury is receiving praise from an unlikely source. Al Jazeera, the Qatari government-funded news organization, published an op-ed on Monday declaring in the headline, the U.S.-Israeli strategy against Iran is working. Well, what? That's not what CNN says. So this guy goes on. 2 weeks into Operation Epic Fury, the dominant narrative has settled into a comfortable groove. The United States and Israel stumbled into a war without a plan. Iran is retaliating across the region, oil prices are surging, and the world is facing another Middle Eastern quagmire. U.S. senators have called it a blunder. Cable news has tallied the crisis. Commentators have warned of a long war. But the narrative is wrong. What he goes on to say is, not because the costs are imaginary, but because the critics are measuring the wrong thing. They are cataloging the price of the campaign while ignoring the strategic ledger. When you look at what actually happened to Iran's principal instruments of power, its ballistic missile arsenal, its nuclear infrastructure, its air defenses, its navy, and its proxy command architecture, the picture is not one of U.S. failure. It is one of systemic phased degradation of a threat that previous administrations allowed to grow for 4 decades, he continued. Salam marveled at how every aspect of Iran's ability to project regional power is being successfully degraded and collapsing in real time. Because that's what's actually happened. He pointed out how Iranian ballistic missile launches have fallen by more than 90%. On day one, they were launching 350 missiles. Now they're down to 25. On day one, they launched 800 drones. Now they're down to 75. Hundreds of Iranian missile launchers have been rendered inoperable. According to some reports, 80% of Iran's capacity to strike Israel has been eliminated. Their naval assets, fast attack crafts, midget submarines, and mine-laying capabilities have been liquidated. Its air defenses have been suppressed to the point where the U.S. is now flying non-stealth B-1 bombers over Iranian airspace, a decision that signals near confidence in air dominancy. The Qatari professor went on to insist that the Iranian regime is facing a strategic dilemma, that firing any remaining missiles will expose the launchers and will probably be targeted by the U.S. and Israel, while reserving missiles forfeits the ability to impose costs of war. This is a force managing decline, not projecting strength, he went on to say. And he's talking about this guy here, Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat from Connecticut, who claimed the Trump administration misjudged Iran's retaliation, as well as CNN's suggestion that the administration lost control over the war regarding the Straits of Hormuz. And it averts the strategic logic. Yeah, a lot of ships with oil on them are stuck in the Strait of Hormuz. But you know who else is stuck there? like Salam points out? Well, Iran's own ships, who now can't take the crude to China. And so China is beginning to suffer. China is their only ally in the UN. China keeps the rest of the world from imposing penalties on Iran. He went on to admit that President Trump's rhetoric has not helped. Has not helped combat critics who question the end game, which the professor said is a permanent degradation of Iran's ability to project power beyond its borders. And right there, that's it. If nothing else, we've definitely solved that problem. It's going to be a while before Iran can really launch anything, because if they even pop a launcher up, Israel's going to blow it up. He went on to say, call it strategic disarmament. This is closer to the approach of the Allies to Germany's industrial war-making capacity in 1944 and 1945 than the U.S. war in 2003, Salam said. The campaign's execution has been imperfect, its public communication poor, and its post-conflict planning incomplete. War is never clean, he says, but the actual strategy measured in degrading capability rather than cable news cycles is working. That's what we did. In World War II, one of the things we did with our air campaign was we went after the Ruhr Valley. We went after Germany's ability to manufacture boats and planes and rockets and armaments. And that's what we've done so far in Iran. We could all armchair quarterback the shit out of this if we want. But what I see is it's working. But that's what I was saying at the beginning of the show. If you listen to the echo chamber, all of our oil is stuck in the Strait of Hormuz. Oh, that's a bad thing. Yeah, but when you consider that Iran can't export its oil, you start to see we're trading our misery for their misery. And at the end of the day, their misery is going to overthrow the government. China is going to put pressure on moderates to seize power because China needs their oil. That's the bottom line. There are two sides to this argument, but the bottom line is, for too long, Iran has projected power beyond its border. Hey, another place where you can see this is, looking at Sky News, right? Sky News says Larianji's death is a big loss, but it's not irreplaceable. But then when you look at the Telegraph, he's the most significant loss so far. More important than the supreme leader. And the reason is Laranjai, however you pronounce it, I'm not good with names, I'm sorry, he's the national security chief. His official job involved managing the flow of information between the different groups, coordinating diplomatic channels, suppressing factional infighting, and implementing controlled succession to prevent the system from fragmenting into competing power centers. He had his hands in all the pie. He also threatened Trump. Well, that threat's been liquefied. Meanwhile, though, they're continuing, even under relentless Israeli and U.S. air strikes and growing, global condemnation of what Iran has done in the past. They just hung 3 people. They forced confessions through torture, and then they hung them, including a 19-year-old wrestler. They hung them for protesting. But yet here, if you throw a bottle at a cop and get arrested, they say that you're suppressing the First Amendment right. Nah. Not true at all. Because over there, they suppress anybody. They hang them. Hanging. But that's who they are. That's who these fundamentalists are. If people would read, if people would understand that the left, especially, hates Christians for their values. Well, look at these Islamic values. They're horrible. They are horrible. I don't want to get into it right now. We got more important things to do. So another story about Iran really quick here is one of my heroes, Adam Carolla, pushed back on Joe Rogan after the podcast giant questioned President Trump's decision to launch strikes on Iran, arguing the threat posed by the regime has long been undefined. Adam says here, I don't agree with Joe in that I don't think it's undefined. I think it's been defined. We talk about the nuclear threat. We talk about them being a menace in the region and a huge supporter and funder of terror and their attacks on our ally Israel, and also wanting to assassinate Trump. Adam Carolla went on to say, if somebody said, hey, Canada put out a couple of threats trying to assassinate Adam Carolla, and then at some point I took over the United States and became the controlling member of the military, I would bomb Canada. First thing, bomb Canada. They put a bounty on my head, now I'm in control. That's what we're seeing. The Iranians threatened Trump. They loved Biden. They loved Obama because they kept giving them cash. Democrats are weak. Liberals and the left wing are weak-minded people. They want to give in to the criminals. They want to give in to the terrorists. They think that by handing them cash, they'll stop bombing them. They have this misguided notion that before a criminal robs you or murders you, they're going to ask your political affiliation. If you say, I voted for Biden, I voted for Kamala Harris, they're not going to rob you and murder you. And that's not the way it works. Iran continued to fund terror even while Biden was sending them cash. Because that's what bad people do. Bad people take advantage of good people. That's what makes them bad. Go figure. So this next headline reads, from streets to murals, the erasure of Cesar Chavez comes with unprecedented speed in California. It's weird because it got me thinking about how humans are imperfect, right? And what we can and can't forgive out of some of these leaders. Like Martin Luther King, one of my heroes, did so much for the civil rights movement. Single-handedly, I believe, gave the black population of America a voice and won a lot of sympathy for their cause. But he wasn't perfect. He wasn't friendly to the gays. He had multiple affairs, and some accounts are over 40 affairs. But we can forgive that. Because, like I've said on this show before, if you're against homosexuality based on religious beliefs, I'm not saying you're right, but I'm also saying I can't really condemn you. Because you have a reason, which, right or wrong, is a concrete reason. It's your religious beliefs. But apparently Cesar Chavez liked to rape little girls. This came from a New York Times investigation, and it kind of unfolded like the Bill Cosby scandal, the Bill Cosby crimes, where at first you weren't sure if you should believe these people. Maybe they were just trying to make a name for themselves. And then, one by one, more and more complaints came forward. And it looks like this is what happened. The New York Times was able to corroborate a lot of these accusations. These women, while not coming forward publicly, had told people about it. Those people substantiated it. And they're literally just erasing this guy. It's mind-bending how fast it's being erased. Statues have already come down. Murals have been painted over. He was a great man. He was a civil rights icon. He did a lot of good work, but it's very difficult. We've seen this before with people like Michael Jackson, where do you excuse the artist and love the art, or what do? Do you cancel the whole thing? I mean, they still play a lot of Michael Jackson on the radio, but again, it all comes down to the little details, and it seems like Chavez may have really used power and influence to molest little girls and to actually sexually assault women. It's unbelievable. I don't bring this up with a political slant. It really kind of makes me sad. We know that different minority groups, they need their heroes. They deserve their heroes. And this one is just really, I don't know, it's mind-boggling. It's really hard to even imagine that. I mean, it's just gone. Cesar Chavez Day is gone. Here in California, I think LA has already signed it. Farm Workers Day, which, again, that's fine. I'm glad for that, because I know what kind of backbreaking work farming is. It's backbreaking. It really is. And I got nothing but respect for the people who are out there picking our strawberries, planting watermelon. It's one thing about Purple State is Purple State focuses on the bottom and works its way up. We don't start at the top. We don't worry about the CEOs. We worry about the people plowing the fields. Because the people plowing the fields are the people who are actually giving us food. All right? The companies that own the farms, they don't do the work. But all right, let's just move on from that because it's kind of depressing. So a lot of people might not even realize this right now, but the Department of Homeland Security is shut down. The Democrats, for the last 35 days, have been holding it hostage. They want to not fund ICE. That's their thing. And you know, I guess let's put it this way. You can say what you want about the immigration side of ICE. But the C, customs, is very important. I mean, do you want the cartels to start shipping in fake Ozempic and some of those drugs and just lace it with meth? Oh, yeah, no, this is really looking good. I have all this energy and I'm losing all kinds of weight. Yeah, but you have a meth addiction now. Do you want them sending in counterfeit merchandise, clothing, medicine? Because that's what the customs side of it does. But along with shutting that down, you know what else is shut down right now? FEMA. Yeah, our emergency response. Cybersecurity. Whoa, that might be important in this day and age. And the TSA. They have TSA agents out there that are working for free right now because of the Democrats. And why? Is stopping the funding of ICE something that will help America? No. It will not help America. All right? We have too many illegals here. This is what Joe Biden did. Joe Biden was one of the most destructive U.S. presidents ever because he opened the floodgates for criminals, scammers, terrorists, all kinds of fucking people that we don't want here. We can argue, oh, these people, they have to come here. No, they don't. There are other places. There are other solutions. And we do provide a way for them to get here. They can get here on work visas. They can get here going through proper channels. It's not like we closed our borders and said, we're not allowing anybody in. And the only way to get in is to sneak in. It's just ridiculous. And part of it is the news, the media. They spin these stories until you believe the wrong thing so that your passion is being focused in the wrong place. Look at Yahoo News right here. Oil and gas prices have soared because of the Iran war. How is Trump trying to lower costs? And will it work? Well, how about the other articles? California failed to suspend their gas tax. Yeah, here in California where we have the highest gas prices, the highest, even higher than Hawaii, which is an island in the middle of the Pacific, for God's sakes, we will not suspend our roughly $1 per gallon tax. You put 15 gallons in your car, that's $15 that California could be putting back into your pocket. But they didn't do it. Why? Because they're greedy. Because they're just so limp-wristed up there. They can't even watch where the money goes. The money is being defrauded left and right. I am beginning to wonder, especially here in California, if more money is being wasted than being wisely spent. You know, in other words, if we pay $20 million for something, does $10 million go to fraud and $10 million to fraud and pork and $10 million actually to the project? Or is the ratio off even more? That's what we're facing here in California, folks. That's why they're talking about all of the taxes and all of the things that they want to do to raise money in California, because they're allowing so much money to just flow out to nothingness. But meanwhile, you have articles like this coming out of the left. Department of Homeland Security says anti-ICE agitators helped child rapist and gang member evade deportations. They threw rocks and bottles at officials while a gang member rammed them with a car and barricaded himself in the apartment. How about this one? An Obama-appointed judge orders release of MS-13 gang member with history of rape, robbery, and attacking ICE officers. They want to release him. He has rape charges facing right now, but they're like, well, we can't deport him to El Salvador because that would be dangerous for him. Fuck him. He's an MS-13 gang member. Fuck him. Bye. Don't really care what happens to you. That's the world we live in. MS-13 doesn't give a shit about what happens to me, so why should I give a shit what happens to them? Did you notice, though, that it's not usually a Trump-appointed judge or a Bush-appointed judge? It's an Obama-appointed judge. who wants to release a rapist who's not on paper, who can just simply disappear. They already did it in Virginia. They caught this illegal alien masturbating. He had public masturbation charges. They arrested him. His name was Angel Marin. They let him out of jail. He disappears into the woodwork, and now he pops up again using Roblox. He went on a children's game, Roblox, which, I mean, I've played it enough. I know there are some fun games on there. I don't mean it derogatorily. It's a fine platform. They don't do enough to protect people, but that's a different story. But this guy was using Roblox currency to solicit explicit content from kids under the age of 10. And they had him in jail on masturbation charges. They could have turned him over to ICE, and he could have been deported, or at the very least been sitting in a holding cell somewhere. But no, they let him out, and he preyed on children. Can you imagine that? At least three young children at the age of 10. The acting assistant secretary, Lauren Biss, told Fox News in this statement. This sicko preyed on innocent children by offering to pay them in video game currency in exchange for child pornography. This illegal alien was released from jail after an arrest for public masturbation. This case is a perfect example of why we need state and local cooperation with ICE. Really? Really? We actually have to bring that up nowadays. That maybe we don't want these people in our country. They're here illegally and they've committed some sort of crime. We don't need them here. That is so fucking simple. Why are people not getting it? You know why? Because they're not hearing it. They're living in an echo chamber. They get the contextualized version of it. That this guy, Angel Marin, is just a poor guy who came to America to pick strawberries and earn a living for his family. No, he's a bad guy. He came here to be pervy. He went after kids under the age of 10. And one of our states, Virginia, one of our original 13 colonies, lets this guy out of jail? They want to protect this sicko? What kind of world are we living in? What kind of society are we attempting to build with that kind of... I'm so sick of it. I don't want to hear from people about what they don't like about Trump. I want to hear people waking up to the fact that these fuckers are putting people at risk for their stupid ideals. All right? When you have a state government or a local government that is so focused on things like DEI and other things like that, they lose focus on things that are important. And this is a great example of it. In Marina del Rey, which is a beach city here in California, a city project meant to quickly turn a hotel into housing for people experiencing homelessness has stretched into a years-long construction effort with now $20 million tied to the development, and neighbors questioning the pace of the project. The city of LA purchased the former Ramada Inn in 2020 for about $10 million. They wanted to use it as part of their Project Home Key program. There were 33 rooms, and initially it was used as interim housing for people experiencing homelessness. Okay, that's cool, because I'm guessing those people really needed the help. Okay, they weren't the freaks and crazies that are out on the streets. But in 2022, the building was shut down. So it's been 4 years. Construction is still ongoing. Through my job, I see different construction projects, and I know how much can be accomplished in a half a year. I've seen warehouses completely transformed inside, offices added, infrastructure added. Okay, there's no reason for this. One of the neighbors, this guy, Sean O'Brien, said, every day that ends in Y, where are the workers? Where's the urgency? The problem is Democrats are not tough enough to manage people. Everything has to be contextualized with them. Oh, well, if I come down on this person, am I going to be accused of racism? No. If they're not doing their job, come down on them. That's just the simple fact. Come down on them. That's why things like the bullet train in California stretch on and just become a money pit. Because nobody is being held accountable. Because they don't want to. I'm sorry, but you can look at the political stances of the left and the right, and you can see who's going to be a better parent, who's going to be a better boss. You know? Sometimes you have bosses that want to address the group instead of the individual, and that's what I'm talking about. Republicans or centralists, people like myself, like I have the balls. Like if I have a problem with somebody, I'm going to pull them to the side and tell them I have a fucking problem with you. I'm not going to address the group. I'm not going to hide behind the group. I'm not going to hide. How about that? I'm not going to hide. All right? Hiding is for cowards. And that's what's been going on for too long now. They hide behind the environment or DEI or equity and inclusion or COVID. They hide behind that shit. They don't have the balls to face it. I don't know, man. That's my way of thinking. But when you live in an echo chamber, you never see that for what it is. Anyhow, one last story here. This is great. A robot at the Heidi Lau hot pot in Cupertino became the center of attention after it began a non-stop dance routine that sent chopsticks and sauce flying. 3 staff members were needed to restrain and deactivate the machine as it continued moving. Oh, yeah. This is awesome. This robot just kind of went crazy. I've seen the video. It wasn't horrifying or anything like that. But it was funny. It's a really funny, feel-good story. I look it up. It's all over the internet. It's hilarious. But tying it into today's episode, the Democrats have shut down the cybersecurity department. Actually, we might need that right now. That's all I ask out of people. Be like a John Fetterman. You could be a Democrat. Look, I have a lot of liberal beliefs. Okay? I really do. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you smoke weed. I don't care if you believe you're a woman. I don't care if you were born in the wrong body. I don't care about those things. I think we need to offer social assistance. I think one of our greatest strengths is being able to help the people who can't help themselves. But the way I see it applied by current 2026 Democrats, lefties, liberals, all that shit, progressives, it's wrong. I see them being seduced by the anti-American Muslim groups out there. Ain't no red-blooded American like myself going to join up with no pro-Iranians. All right? I ain't going to go out there and fucking sit there and mourn the loss of their supreme leader. Fuck that. I want Iran free because I want everybody free. Freedom for the entire goddamn planet is good for us. But to do that, sometimes you're going to have to do difficult, unpopular things. And that's one of the reasons why I lean a little towards the right when it comes to politics. Most of the answers are in the center, but the application requires people who are willing to stand in the fire and take it and not worry about the optics. I like to be optic free. I'm Kid Copies on Purple State Party, and so are you. Love one another. Keep on grinding. And most importantly, man, get out of the echo chamber and put on some bumping music and dance that out. Peace, y'all. Love ya.